The challenge became, how do we cut these calls down? Because they range between 30 minutes to 3 hours. And then the night of the event was like 5 to 6 hours. So ultimately, it's like, where are we? Who are we with? What are we hearing in order to get this full 360-degree experience?
Hello,
Hello.
Viridiana.
Yes, it's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for your time. A pleasure to talk to you. Oh my God, what an intense documentary.
Mm.
And first, I need to congratulate you and for the nominations for the Critics'
Oh,
Choice
thank you.
documentary. You got
Thank
six
you.
nominations, so
It's
it's
incredible.
it's amazing. How do you feel about that?
It's incredible. I mean, I think, after we premiered at Sundance, there was this, it was incredible at Sundance, but you had this moment where you think, is this just a fever dream altitude? Like, was this the moment? And then every time we screened the film throughout the year at film festivals, it was like someone had just unpaused and that reaction kept resonating. But I remember the night before released on Netflix, we all were like, well, what will that be? I mean, then it'll become the world's. And so the idea that not only has it been number one and do all these and reach more people than any project I've ever been a part of, to now be recognized with this attention and these, yes, all these awards, it just adds more visibility and acknowledgement, and also just so validating to instincts and heart that we all put into this film.
That's amazing. Like from the beginning, like how did you come on board, and what was
Mm-hmm.
like important for you to be part of a documentary with this type of topic?
Yes. Geeta, the director, I've worked with her on a handful of projects and we've built a lot of trust and love collaborating. And this is a personal story for Geeta. Ajika was a family friend. And when this initially happened, Geeta went down to Florida with her partner, Nikan, who is also, they all kind of knew everybody involved in this. So they went down, they activated, and a part of getting this footage was actually to build a case and make sure Susan was arrested. I mean, they were so involved in it. And when that all happened and Geeta saw this footage and realized maybe there's something more here, she called me and she said, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I think it could be built out of this footage. And I was like, it will be built. I was so determined. I was like, it will. And what drew me to this, beyond the call to action of wanting to be a part of, obviously a very important film that was being made, but also for Geeta, it was such a personal, I've never worked on a personal film of hers. So that was a huge honor and a privilege for her to trust me with that. I was also, as an editor, obviously fired up to take on this challenge, to work with materials I had never worked with before in a way that I could only kind of fantasize about, that I had never seen before. I mean, I knew that it was going to be for the first time something that was purely instinct driven, because there was just nothing to compare it to. And that was really thrilling. And so to be here now and with the way the film has been resonating has been one of those, like, oh yeah, we should trust our instincts and we should try to do things and meet material where it is. All of these things that I've dreamed as an editor of my whole career doing, and this film afforded that to be possible.
Yeah, that's amazing because pretty much the whole movie is, let's say, archival footage
Yes,
because it's the
yes.
body cam, is the court footage, footage from the phone that people recorded. How was like for you, like to grab all these, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yes, yes, yes,
overwhelming,
yes.
right?
Yes. It was so, I mean, first things first, we knew we were going to tell this film chronologically. So we knew that, so that's one challenge as an editor right off the bat is usually like, okay, well, let's watch all this footage and figure out how we're going to tell this story and what. And with this one, we knew that we were kind of showing the case. We're stating the case from beginning to end. So then after that, it's about watching each call. And on each call, every police call, which I mean, when they go to the scene and they're kind of interviewing everybody, all of those times they were called to the neighborhood, there was always at least two cops. So now it's kind of playing like a multicam, but they go to all these different spaces. The challenge became, how do we cut these calls down? Because they range between 30 minutes to 3 hours. And then the night of the event was like 5 to 6 hours. So ultimately, it's like, where are we? Who are we with? What are we hearing in order to get this full 360-degree experience and get all of the perspectives? And in those calls, there's a ton of repetition. I mean, which is important to the story in that simmering to a boil, but it's also staying really cognizant of what new information can we learn in each call, and how do we create the ebbs and flows of a story, of a cinematic experience, so it's not overwhelming, so that you do laugh and cry and feel tension. And some of that is about honing the calls, and some of that is about the genre play. I remember Gita early on saying it kind of feels like a horror film, and so we kind of played with some of that tension. But I will say that one important note that Gita gave me very early on in the direction of this film is that we wanted it to feel rooted with the neighborhood, like in the perspective of the community, despite this lens that they're wearing. So ultimately, that was the guiding North Star that helped us make all the choices as we honed down each of the calls and ultimately the entire story,
Yeah. Is there anything like that surprised you throughout this process about like the people that live there, or with the policemen, or this about the Florida laws? Because this law is kind of tricky, but there's something that surprised you the most about it?
About the film, like about anything.
About the story, itself.
Yeah, the story. I guess what surprised me the most was the nuanced role of the police, because the film wasn't about the police, right? The goal of it was to stay rooted with the community. And there were times early on in my editing process where I thought, is this community policing? Like, because they felt so supportive, and the people knew the police officer, and then the more I started to be in the footage and experience it, the more I realized, like, we still reached this conclusion, like, despite what felt like the police understanding or being on a side that we could feel like was right. So then it was like, well, what could they have done, right? And then realizing how much in the nuance of the story, there is this call to action in how police operate, even though it isn't about them. So, there was a lot of the story. I did know a lot about Stand Your Ground. I grew up in Florida for a portion of my life, and some of those communities and those neighborhoods, some of that all felt familiar. So there was a lot in there, but watching procedure and kind of within all the footage, and then within our story, giving this larger scope conversation and the nuance of privilege and a lot of these layers to unpack with that has been a fascinating internal journey inside me. And also in Q&As, and when we are engaging with people about how they interpret the choices and impact that they had, despite it just being treated as the lens, So that was surprising to me, that that growth we can have from that part of the story as well.
Yeah, I was very surprised how patient they are with people. You know what I mean? Like they go, they receive, I don't know how many calls they receive from the lady. And she always complained about the same stuff, and then they know that
it's true, and yet there are still, we can learn from the actions that maybe could have happened. Like they could have had the neighborhood file reports against Susan. There are other steps, but it was the first portrayal of the police I had seen in that way, and so there's like this incredible, important conversation in that I think is that I'm kind of getting fascinated about in the discourse around the film.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think the super well edited. It's not too long. It's not too short. I think we are getting like the certain amount of information that we need, and this has amazed me because you guys did everything without grabbing a camera and went over there and talked to them like with a microphone or something. That's incredible. And
well, I do want to say, Gita talks about this a lot. I think because we had the materials to tell the story, beyond the idea of basically creating a film out of the evidence so that it could feel very true and factual, which was the top priority. There's this other layer of these types of stories being told right now where people are being re-traumatized by having to be interviewed and over again, or whatever the perhaps agenda or motivation for making the film is, embedded in the approach of the film and all this. So there can be this instinct to pick up the camera and go fill in all the gaps or get all of the telling. But I think it's a powerful example of when you can kind of follow the footage, trust the materials, and just state the facts and really try to get to the truth of what happened. Yeah, from all perspectives.
That's amazing. And for us to wrap it up, I know people are already watching, it's out there, but what do you expect people learn or like achieve, like watching the documentary?
I mean, one thing I'm very proud of in this film is that I think that there are so many layers of conversation in it. Stand Your Ground is one. I think there's conversations of classism, racism, economic strata, policing, right, as we were talking about. There are all these layers of work that I think we can all do with each other and the system at large. And then on the storytelling approach, we've talked about this a little bit, but I do think this concept of trusting our audience and finding that singular specific voice to any story we're telling and kind of following that footage and staying true to what it's doing and saying. And all of those things are things I've yearned to be a part of in a project. And in this time, when there's so many projects that feel like they're algorithm driven, right? Like everybody's like, it's got to be a comp, it's got to do this, it's got to do that. This expectations game and the rules that everybody's setting for how we tell stories. No, like we just need to listen to what motivated us to tell that story and then stay true to the materials we're doing it with. And I think that that is something I hope this film also does, along with all of the incredible work it's doing.
Amazing. Amazing, Viridiana. It's just a pleasure to meet you.
No, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Congratulations on the nominations. Good luck on Sunday because the ceremony is on Sunday.
Yes, thank you.
And say hello to Gita for me.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. If you like to support or continue to support Jana on Camera, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share the videos.